to overcome these. So about these incidents, why are we talking about it right now? This is November. The next IOF high-level event, World Cup, VOC, other championships. It's still some 7 months away. So it's a good time to revisit the incidents which happened in 2024. Yeah, we are getting smarter and smarter from year to year, but I'm pretty sure that we may not be able to avoid these incidents in our future events. But the main issue here is that we may know how to solve them faster and in a better way to have all this experience. Yeah. So when an incident happens, there is most of the time only bad solutions that are available. That is what it is. And in I can also tell you that in some cases, well, let's say in most cases, the organizer is not directly responsible for these incidents. But yeah, this is what it is. We have to take care of these. What helps in preventing these incidents is if we have an experienced organizer and doing a lot of prior checking before the event. But it will not always help. But it will definitely help in preventing some of these incidents. And my last point here is that we sometimes have some good plans, but in too many cases we need to make some late changes, either because we didn't think about something, or another stakeholder in the organization or an external contractor didn't think about something, and we need to make late changes. My experience, especially from this year's VOC, is that too many of these incidents were the results of late changes. So please try to plan your events carefully and then try to avoid these. So what events we will focus on? We will start with AOC, then we will continue with JVOC, then we will go through the World Cup rounds 1, 2, and 3 in Switzerland, Italy, and Hungary. And then we will skip the World Cup finals in Finland, in Kuopio, because we found out that there are not a lot of new findings from this event. It was a pretty good event, so we decided to skip that. And then we will focus quite a lot about on VOC, but we will see on how much time we do have left. But then let's start with AOC, and the senior event advisor for this event was Kjell Sønniksen. Kjell, welcome.
Thank you.
And please present your findings from AOC.
Yes, thank you. I will do that. And as far as I know, we had there were not that many incidents in AOC, so this will only be a warm up for what you will see later on. I'm sure. So first of all, we had no complaints or therefore no protests at AOC. By the way, for those who are not familiar with AOC, it's a European Youth Orienteering Championship, which has 4 classes, the 2 age groups, 16 and 18. And it consists about 3 days, 3 competition in 3 days with a party thrown in for good measure, and has about 400 runners. So it's a quite large event in the number of runners, and it's a quite compact event as well. We had a couple of fair play incidents, very small, and 2 other things I would like to to focus on. Yes. First of all, a team official was seen in the quarantine of the long distance using his mobile phone after the quarantine had closed. This is, of course, not allowed. Fortunately, this was before the live production started, so it had no real consequences, and he was asked not to do it, and he put it away. I only heard about it, that it was not escalated in any way. The rule about this was emphasized on the next team officials meeting, so that's what we could do about it at that time. But the learning point is that I would say that a lot of the team officials, and at least and especially athletes, in this case it was a team official, but it could have been an athlete as well, they are not very familiar with the basic fairness rules about how to behave in a quarantine zone. So this might be a good idea to emphasize in the last bulletin on the first team officials meeting, especially in this regional championships or youth competitions like EOC and JWOC and so on. Yes. During the sprint competition, we had a couple of runners who didn't follow the marked route through the arena. The organizers didn't realize that. In fact, nobody really realized that until the competitors themselves, they turned themselves in after the race. They're showing an exceptional amount of fair play. And in fact, there could have been others. They were not found. They were not realized that if there were any others. So you should have officials checking that the runners follow the marked route. This is something I have seen a couple of times during my career, starting with WOC in 2006, that runners don't follow the marked routes, especially around the arena. And my solution, I would say, I think, is to have a detailed map in the last bulletin showing what to expect as a runner about the spectator control, arena passage, when does it start, where do you come from to the spectator control, where should you go through the arena, where does the marked route stop, and so on, and quite detailed, not so they can prepare themselves. That's the best we can do with it, at least I think. So, yes. Two minor points was that we had a too tight transport schedule from the quarantine of the long distance to the pre-start. It was done using 9-person microbuses, shuttle buses driving back and forth. The schedule was just right, meaning that the throughput could just make that the planned throughput of how many runners they could transport was just right for the number of runners that should start every minute. So there was no slack in the plan for any problems with the transport. So when there was a problem, which there was about the parking area around the quarantine, so there was quite chaotic parkings. That meant that the buses couldn't even pass each other, so they had to wait for each other, and the entry and exit of the buses was not very well planned. It took longer time than planned, so it was quite chaotic before the first start. And also that there was a lot of team officials that also wanted to go to the pre-start, not just the runners. So the learning point is that you should provision some slack into put some provision into the time schedule and capacity, especially because the team officials also want to go to the pre-start. So yes. And finally, we had in the sprint, as this being a European championship, we had an Australian runner ended up in the second place in the sprint in W18, and as the rules say, she cannot have a medal and cannot yes, she can't get a medal. And anyway, the organizers acknowledged her achievement and put her on the stage, on the podium, alongside the European second place. And she had a prize and everything, but that was very well received by the teams. They, in my experience, they're not very focused on this being European. They're just having a lot of good time with fellow young runners. Furthermore, there was only one flag of each nation available, which did give some problems, or well, when you had more than one competitor on the podium from some of the nations. I think Finland or Sweden, they could only raise one flag. So learning point is that you should, for the ceremonies, plan for the art event that two or more from the same nation will be on the podium. You could have shared medals, and or in our case here, you could have a non-European runner ending in the top 3. So that was it from me, I think. Just minor things in the big scheme.
Yeah, thank you, Kel. So Kel will need to leave in a few minutes. So if you have any questions or comments to Kel, you have a few seconds to raise it now.
Seems to be no comments right now.
Okay, unfortunately, I don't see the comments, so I will rely on you, Jaska. But otherwise, if there are no comments or questions, then I will thank Kel for his contribution and his work with EOC, and we will leave you to do your stuff, Kel. Thank you. And then we will move on to another junior event, the Junior World Orienteering Championships, where the SCA was Radoslav Jonáš from Slovakia, but Rado is out traveling, so he asked me to do his presentation. We went through this a couple of days ago, so I will try to present this. We will have 6 issues in total, and the first one is there was an ethics rules breach before the event. So if you have been to JVOX, you might be familiar that before JVOX, the teams are preparing some material about themselves to present the team and the team members. This can be done on paper. This can be done on social media. But one team has prepared a presentation in a way which was in conflict with the IOF ethics rules. They prepared it with a good intention. However, it could be interpreted as also as promoting corruption, alcohol, and violence. So the SCA did recognize this and asked for the team to remove the presentation from public space. They did that, and also at the first team officials meeting, the importance of of the right behavior was emphasized to the teams. And from our understanding, this has not happened after this presentation. They had some missing punches in Sayax, and this is a recurring issue. We will come back to it in several other events. But there were several teams in several competitions who had missing punches in Sayax, and some have also filed complaints about the missing punches and provided some information proving the presence of their competitors under control. This was mostly through GPS tracking or saying that I was with this other competitor and he or she can prove it. But of course, this is not the proof that we are looking for. Actually, IOF competition rule 20.5 is quite.
Jako já si myslím, že to je o lidech, kteří na to postupně vždycky dojdou, že je lepší to mít skryté a pak si to až někdy.
Yeah. Can you please mute your microphone? Riaska, can you please mute his microphone? Okay.
It's been done already, but Kel has a question that there were only complaints, no protest on this.
Yeah, there was no protest in for the whole JVOC. There were several complaints, but no protest on this situation. So this is a pretty standard situation that we are facing, especially at sprint competitions. You know, there is always a line that, let's say, 1 centimeter here and 1 centimeter there. It beeps. Then in other situation, it doesn't beep. But these proofs were not strong enough. So the organizer in all these cases has decided not to reinstate the mispunched runners. So these teams did understand the rules before filing the complaints. So they knew that they don't have a good proof for this. But you know, when you are a coach, you are trying to do everything for your runner. And for your federation, so that's why the complaints were filed. So the activity was focused on the protection of the runners. There is a good chance that as a future organizer, you will potentially face this situation too. So please get ready to solve this. Then we had a too narrow passage in the sprint competition at the end of the competition. I will not play this video, but you can see very close to the last control, there is a passage that is, of course, a bit wider shown on the map than how it is in reality. In reality, this was about 60 centimeters wide, and the Swedish competitor didn't manage to find this quite narrow gap, and they filed a complaint about this gap. They said that it was too narrow and not obvious enough before the last control, and their runner did lose like half a minute and the potential medal position due to this mistake. So the organizer, well, this was quite close to the finish, so the organizer went out and verified the side and the obviousness of this passage. They thought it was pretty easy to pass through, and this was clearly marked both in the terrain and on the map, and they rejected the complaint. But it is still important to consider these situations. The competitors are nervous. Of course, this is the last part of the course, so you have to pay extra care that everything is fine. So I will distribute these presentations in some way, and then the video from JVOC is publicly available. So fortunately, this incident was captured by the JVOC streaming. And it's quite obvious that the competitor didn't really know where she was going in this situation. So it was definitely not only a competitor, an organizer mistake. In my opinion, this was 100% a competitor mistake. Going through. During the sprint competition, the SCA was informed by live logs about a cheating attempt. This involved one of the team coaches who were present, and this is quite difficult to tell the situation in detail now, because it's quite complicated one. In live logs you can set up events so that they catch GPS tracks from runners, and here a lot of different events were set up in live logs. The finish position was known. The start position was different in each of these events, and the dates were set to be several months long. So LiveLogs believes that the intent of this setting up of several events was to catch some GPS tracks and get to know something from the courses. And so they they reported it to the SCA, and then this was they also saw that these events did not catch any of the GPS tracks, so this attempt was not successful in the end, and the information in the end was forwarded to the IOF disciplinary panel. Now, neither Rado nor I know if something has happened to this. Helge, I don't know if you have any information on this.
No, not as far as I know.
Okay, but the main point here is that these kind of GPS leaks do happen, and we will come back to another one in a few minutes. So it's important to know that that this is an option to look into for from other sources. So please keep the test runner's GPS records strictly confidential during the preparation phases. And there is also an IOF competition rule 26.5 that is related to this. So attempts to gain any information related to the courses beyond that provided by the organizer is forbidden before the competition. So we didn't get a hard proof of if this really happened. This is why this is with the IOF disciplinary panel, and I didn't mention any names or nations about this, because this is a suspicion at this point. But this is a real possibility that something like this can happen, and of course this is forbidden from the competitors from the team side, but this might still happen. Okay, then a minor issue. Two Australian competitors did get some health issues before the long distance or during the long distance competition. Actually, one of them could start in the middle distance, but the Australians wanted to include a new person in their team for the remaining competitions. But this is something that Rule 9.7 of the IOF competition rules does not allow. So it was they were not allowed to enter new competitors. But since the traveling distance was quite long and there was another Australian competitor on site, this runner was allowed to run in the relay competition, but the relay was not placed. And this was announced to everyone on the team officials meeting. of course, there is a rule that is against this, but there is also, if you start reading the rules from the beginning, rule 2.14 actually says that JVOC must have a social rather than a competitive atmosphere, accentuating exchange of experience. And this rule was used to allow this person to run the relay competition. And the last one is about Rado's course setting experiences with the course planners. JVOC has 5 different competitions, and the Czech organizers were using 5 different course setters, and they had very different backgrounds with different age, different experiences, different involvement in today's orienteering, different personal characters. And this posed a challenge to Rado's communication skills, even though he is speaking Czech. So the language was not a problem here, but talking to so many people with so many different goals might be quite a challenge. So in one extreme case, which was what happened was that one of the course planners temporarily resigned a few weeks before JVOC, when this was at a critical stage, when they were at a critical stage of finalizing the courses, and this could have uh, resulted in some other problems than this. So that was it from JVOC. I was present at the first part of JVOC, so I can certainly answer some comments or questions. But since Rado is here, since Rado is not here, then it's he can't answer your questions. But please go ahead if you have any comments or questions. Okay, if you don't have any,
I don't see any comments in chat or any questions.
Okay, then we will go forward and we will go to the World Cups, and we will start with the World Cup in Switzerland, with where János Manarin was the senior event advisor. János, welcome, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Aaron. Can you listen to me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Me? Okay. More than an incident, it was a situation that we had to face during the first World Cup, and it was with the weather. We were in the KO spring qualification, so knockout, and there was a thunderstorm soon after the men's race and before the start of the women's race. So the men ran without any problem, and then in really 2 or 3 minutes, something really strong race, and we need to stop the race in the end for 30 minutes. And there was a little bit a problem because the event director was at the finish line, while me, the start manager and the national controller, we were at the start. And we have a WhatsApp group, but with the weather coming really bad, we have no time really to look at the WhatsApp writing and deciding and something like that. So in the end, the athletes come to the inside the gates for the start until the -2, while we decide that we have to stop the race because it was really impossible to run in that moment and even to start. Okay, I go on. And this happens really in 5 minutes. And the problem is, who can take the decision of stopping a race? In the end, it's the event director, but the event director was not in that place at that moment. So I took the decision, and the event director decided to stop the race for 30 minutes. So we tell the athletes, you can go back to the quarantine. But the quarantine was 800 meters from the start, and we already had the race for the men before. So there is two big problems raised, that all the athletes, they already gave their jacket to the people who have to bring it to the finish line. So they were without any cover under the heavy rain of these moments and the cold. And then it was supposed that we have 30 minutes where those athletes can get in contact with some others who has already run. In the end, nothing happens, and we have no complaints, no problems at all. The race started 30 minutes later, and they finished with the sun, so no problem at all. But the main problem is we were in the knockout qualification, so no problems with TV, with no broadcast, and what we don't know what could have happened if we have to the reopening of the roads for the traffic. In this case, no problem. The event director, Matthias, says that there were no problems, so we could have delayed 30 minutes the start without any problem. But in other cases, I know that we were really close to the closure of the reopen of the streets, and if you have a live broadcasting, sure it's a problem to decide to delay 30 minutes of competition. If I do it, if I have to take this decision again, probably I will stop 5-10 minutes before. I was there with all the coaches, and it doesn't seem so bad before taking the decision. But in the end, it's better to stop the event even 5 minutes before, even if it was not that bad, that to go into the strong situation. And then this is not I wrote it's a suggestion, but I don't know if the quarantine is so far away. Maybe you need to think to have all the athletes, coaches, and us, that we were outside of the rain in that moment. This is my report on that.
Okay, and then this was quite a good World Cup event. Otherwise, we had 2 nice finals without any major issues after this. But yeah, I agree that this was a major issue, and I remember talking to you after the competition, and I think this was a really delicate situation when do you really stop the race, Janos? So I think this was a really interesting situation. I don't know if the others have any comments or questions.
Well, there is one Björn Axel comments that there was 25 years ago in Nordic Champs the same kind of situation, and also the same kind of solution was used there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the main problem is when you take the decision to stop an event, and you are not an event director. I know the event director was fully agreed with us that to stop the competition, so no problem at all. But it's really that you have to take the decision in 1 minute, and it's not clear sometimes who. I think that we lose 2 or 3 minutes to decide who has to take the decision.
Yeah.
So in the end, we all agree that we have to stop. It was me, the staff manager, and the national controller. So we decide in some way all together. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Janos. Other comments, Jaska?
Brigitte raising hand.
Yes, just to add, like the special situation, I was in the finish by that time, and for us the challenge was how to communicate to all the players, like most importantly to the volunteers out at the crossings and at the controls, because they were expecting the women to come now, and then there was a 30-minute hole, so they had to be informed, and like the police, as Janos said, and yeah, all the players had to be informed about that 30-minute longer running time. So that was the challenge. That's something that, of course, you have to think through beforehand, but you really have to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So I suggest we move on from this situation, and thank you, Janos, for your work and your contribution to this seminar. And let's move on to the work.
One more comment from Ivar, that this illustrates the importance of having good communication channel up and running, like WhatsApp.
Yeah, thank you, Ivar, for the comment. So then let's move on to the World Cup in Italy, in Genoa, and the SCA was Peter Molnar.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the World Cup second round was held in Italy, Genoa, as a pre-race of Sprint Walk 26. And it included 2 sprint races, an individual and a relay with 2 different arenas. So it was quite difficult from organizers' point of view, but they did a great job. So overall, the event was on a high quality, and they had really good feedback from athletes and from teams, and they had an excellent event quality index. So finally, I was really satisfied. But since Aaron asked us to skip what worked well, now I will concentrate on the incidents only. I divided the incidents into technical and non-technical issues, and this is the list of the technical issues. The first one is the leaking issue during the relay competition. I think it's quite public or well known, but here I collected the details. 4 hours before the event, the men's course appeared on the GPS Sauranta website under the link of the previous day's individual race. It was soon realized by teams and organizers, so it was turned off, and it was available only for 17 minutes. It was downloaded 25 times. We had the statistics afterwards, but probably most of these were by the organizers. On the venue, a crisis management group was collected, and we had a meeting as soon as possible, together with the local organizers and Henrik Eliasson from the IOF side, and Aaron Lesch was also at the place. So we had a meeting. We assumed that the runners who saw the map, since they signed the fair play rules when they signed the athlete license, they tried to follow the fair play, so they turned away or switched it off as soon as possible. And we had a discussion with the organizers, but we realized really fast that there is no chance to replan the courses. In case of a sprint competition, you have much less possibility to do this, and we had a very short time. And since the TV window was already fixed, the only solution could have been that we hold the race as it was planned with the original courses. Afterward, we didn't decide if it can be a World Cup race or not. We decided to ask the team's opinion on this question. So when the quarantine was closed, in the quarantine we collected the team officials. We described the situation for them and asked their opinion on if it can be World Cup race or not. The teams agreed that the runners who saw the course shouldn't run. It wouldn't be fair, but they also assumed that it was only a few athletes. After this meeting, the crisis management group decided to keep the race as a World Cup race, distribute prize money, but as a compromise, we don't distribute the World Cup points. After the decision, some teams informally told us that it would have been also okay from their side if we also distribute the World Cup points, but they said it was a good solution. So finally, the race was held as it was planned, and it was quite exciting, and we could see many mistakes from the runners. So we thought that this was an evidence that the runners didn't really analyze the course previously. And we had quite good feedback from the teams that we made a good decision. And yeah, here I would like to thank again to Aaron and Henrik for their support on the venue, making the right decision. And one point here that one team after the competition asked to be disqualified because they saw the course previously.
Yeah, this was an extreme situation. We in the IOF, let's say, anticipated that this situation may happen in the next 5 or 10 years. But of course, you can't fully get ready what to do in such a situation. So it was really extreme the first hour of this when we found out that the course map has leaked.
Yes, it really depends on that how long time before. There was a similar situation in Portugal, I think 8 years ago or something, when it happened the day before. So they had time to replan the courses, and it was a forest race. So I think it really depends on how long time before it's leaking. Here we didn't have any other chance than to run the courses which were originally planned.
Okay, let's get back to this when your presentation is over.
Okay. Okay, and there is another leaking issue which is not so well known. Some months before the relay, the course setter had some field activities and his GPS watch was turned on. And after the run, it automatically synchronized with the Strava, and it could have been seen for a short time on Strava. Basically, the course setter is deleting his track right after the run, but in this short time, it was available, and an Italian athlete saw it, and he suddenly didn't know what to do. but made a screenshot. And he asked the Italian coach, Stefano Raus, who asked János, and János advised them to send an email to me. And I asked them to delete the screenshot and not to spread the information. And at the same time, I asked the course planner to not to use his GPS watch at any activities on the terrain. He was walking alongside the course, but not the same gates and fences were opened and closed. So it was, even if somebody is checking it, it was some hint which areas will be used, but he didn't have real information on the courses based on this. Okay, this is a, let's say, common situation. We have had the same one for the IOC icing. An Italian athlete did not have a punch from any SAEC on the last control. As you could see it on the photo, he was visiting the control. Yeah, it was quite special situation because he was a local runner and his trainer was the course setter and the technical director. So, and he had a really good achievement. I think he would have been on the podium or something. So Team Italy filed a complaint to the referees and the referees rejected it according to the rule, which already Aaron mentioned today. So yeah, it's quite an unlucky situation, but it's quite usual. And yeah, then the next day for the relay, we decided to use a wider range station for the last control, and there was no mispunch on the relay.
Peter, just confirming the terminology here. Was there a protest per se?
No.
Or it was only a complaint?
No,
right?
only a complaint.
Yeah, thank
Aaron?
you.
Yeah, but this is a referee system, so there is only a complaint. This is my mistake that it's protest written there.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yes, and the relay arena setup, the route from the last control was going downhill, which I really wouldn't have liked it from the very beginning. But finally, we had this solution. So it was the situation. It was one part of the problem. The other one is that there was a quite dangerous angle right after. Here you can see on the photo that after the finish line, going to the changeover, you have to take almost 90 degrees turn to the right. And they were running high speed down and they had to turn. So many of the runners had was falling, like here you can see Hungary. Yes, here you can see before the changeover this angle, which is quite the same like it was on the place. Yes, thanks, Aaron. Yes, and during the race, it was not really clear for the runners where they can go, where is the cool down zone, where is the warm up. The warm up was quite obvious, but after the running, if they can go out to the spectators, they didn't have gates on these fences to go out, and they asked organizers, they asked me, and it was a little kind of mess what they can do after the finish. There was a small place for warm-up. The quarantine was the yard of a sports center, which was really a small place, but we opened a part from the park to extend this area. But probably it was not really clear for the runners, so it was a small gate where they could go out to the park, and there was no big signs that you can go also there. So probably they didn't realize that they have more space than only on the yard. And there was a quite narrow passage from this team zone warm up to the changeover next to the media, going between trees, and it was, I don't know, 60, 70 centimeters wide, and a lot of runners tried to go through this narrow passage at the same time. My suggestion is that, or my feeling is that the arena setup is really important. It changed many times before the event. And finally, sometimes, in this case, not much, but sometimes it's also changing during the construction of the arena. So I think we should spend more time on the setup previously and then trying not to change it on the venue. And there are many stakeholders for the arena setup. So the TV, the organizers, the athletes, the branding, and sometimes it's not easy to find the best solution for everybody. But I would like to highlight what Aaron said at the beginning, that the late changes are not no good for this area. Okay, next. Yes, the relay forking. Four first controls were used for all the 4 legs. So for men and women distributed randomly. We had quite a lot of discussion previously with Helge and Gigi, for example, and with the course setter. And finally, we decided to keep it as it is because this was a World Cup race and there were 55 relays, and we wanted to spread them as much as possible. To be honest, I was not strict in this question. I was letting the course setter to do it as he planned. But for example, in case of a walk, I think we would have done, or we will do it in 26 a different way. This information was published in the bulletin and on the team officials meeting, so the athletes were aware of it. And the course setters tested these forkings, and the result was that the difference was only some seconds between these forkings. So I think that from the fair play point of view, I think finally it was okay. Okay, next slide, please. Yes, as you could see on the previous slide, the first controls there was one control which was on a quite different direction than the other 3. So at the second control, you can see this A control. So the runners coming from the B, C, D were running like in the same flow, but the runners coming from control A were arriving to the second control from the opposite direction, and it caused a kind of collision. It's not the best picture because this is a screenshot from the TV coverage, but yeah, there were some collisions. So I think that it would have been better if all the 4 controls are alongside the same flow and runners are catching the controls in a row. Okay. Next. Yes, and there were some non-technical issues. There was a little delay in the transport on the individual race. We had just 2 or 3 minutes in every round, but we had 7 rounds. So the last round had around 15 minutes. And the staff of the quarantine was really flexible, so it was not an issue from this point of view. But there were some controls, the last controls of the course could have been seen from the route of the transport. So it was decided that they will be put only after the leave of the last bus. And this way, the controls were a little late. It was before the runners arrived, but it was later than we planned. There were some delays in the luggage transport. I think it's typical issue. And another typical issue is that there were too few toilets in the sprint relay quarantine. Unfortunately, Genoa is not really suitable for using a kind of Olympic village for the teams or have an organized accommodation for the teams. The organizers provided some hints for the teams, but they had to book accommodation themselves. And the team officials meeting was online and real also. And the place, which it was held in the event office, and the acoustic of the place was not really good for this kind of meeting. And the big screen during the relay was out of order for some minutes. But as I mentioned at the very beginning, overall it was a really successful event. Leo Haldna said that this was the best event he has ever seen in Italy. So it had a good feedback.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Yeah.
Yes, I'm
There
finished.
are-
Thank you. If you have any questions.
There is a comment from Helge that when you talked about the control number 2 in sprint leader, it will be shown in a Daniel Wolf's safety of sprint presentation. And then Peter Abel asked a question that could you identify the root cause of leaking issue and did you find a solution how to avoid it in the later competitions? And was it an automatic appearance on the website?
Yeah, as far as I know, it was a human error. So somebody was clicking to the wrong file when he uploaded. And yes, we had some ideas how to avoid it in the future. For example, somebody from the organizer side need an approve on the file, or first it is not published, but somebody is checking it. And then if he approves, then it can be public or something like this. But it's not easy to find a solution, I think.
Yeah,
Aaron, I don't know if the
clarify that again it was the sprint competition on the previous day that was already open that the file was uploaded into, so that's why it came out there. But then Fleming asked question that why was it the problem that the organizers did not organize accommodation?
I don't think it's a real problem, but it was a feedback from the teams that they would have liked to have organized accommodation.
Yeah, the other issue is that for VOC 2026, almost the whole city is embargoed. So there is not a lot of places to find suitable accommodation. And then you have to have some local knowledge, and then it can become quite difficult to find accommodation.
And Jari makes a comment that teams like the Athletes Village in the EOC 23, I guess he means the EOC 24 in Hungary, that they stayed in a Villa Park also. That was also a kind of village type or Athletes Village type deal.
Yeah, Jari meant 23 for sure.
Yes,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Peter.
So I think that teams like it when they can be at a comfortable place together. Yeah.
Okay, one last comment we have time for.
I don't see any comments here, so you can continue.
Okay, so you were talking about EOC 24. Let's move on to EOC 24 then. And the SCA was Jerzy Antonovic. Welcome, Jerzy.
Welcome. Good morning, everybody.
Okay, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Aaron. I want to share with you findings from this year European Orienteering Championships. The competition was in Hungary. first I start with the very extreme high temperature during this period in the Europe, in the Middle Europe or in the West Europe too, was really high, high like normal in the summertime. We organized some. I asked the organizer, and we organized an emergency meeting that was 2 days before the competition. And the organizer, we talk about a lot of solution and what we can do, what we can help for the competitors, but for the organizer too. So the organizer try organize and a lot of facilities, cooling facilities, move the ice with the water to the finish, a lot of drinking water for the runners on the quarantine, on the course, and of course in the arena. The organizer on the team leader meeting prepare some information and clear communication to the teams, ask for the for this cooperation. That was fine. Second, the organizer decided about increase the quarantine terrain, not only the quarantine arena, but together with the forest, all terrain before the quarantine, and the pre-start was open for the quarantine for the team. So the team move and stay in the little more shadow. So that was some really important. Yes, we are the outdoor sports. So what happened in the old ten with the thunderstorm, so that we have the opposite about the high temperature, but then we have thunderstorm. Was second, some small issue during the relay. During the last part, the women relay, we have the big thunderstorm, and on this arena and in the forest. But we can organize just emergency meeting. But we talk before in the old ten what happens and what we can do in the future. I think this is task for the talking about the future, what we can really do in this situation. But for us was very important what happened, and if we have really we follow the forecast, and we know so that is only few minutes, and the biggest thunderstorm center was few kilometers from the arena, but we really talk about probably evacuation, the about 1,000 viewers. Second, the repeat from some competitors, the winning time, the longer winning time. So we have really in the middle distance final. So really, this is for us, for senior event advisor, but the same for the organizer. Prepare the analysis before. I have the few analysis on this with the organizer. We talk a lot of on the every meetings and about the winning time and the speed, but was some. Yes, the organizer, the course setter was so defined the things about faster winning time, but this is for the future, really push the organizer. Yes, for the last time, must really push more organizer for more analysis, for some test races before, so we can really be prepared. And we must follow the rules and prepare the course on the not only middle, but on the some gap thinking. So probably some happens like the weather condition or something. So we must be prepared about this. It is not easy,
Jerzy,
but we must. Yes, please.
There was a question from Fleming that was it discussed to shorten the long distance courses due to the critical high temperatures?
Not exactly, because that was not possible. cut the course. That was not the more important was the middle distance, but we talk about what we can do, the organizer with this, about the long distance. We don't talk about the cut the course. We more talk about the facilities for the runners and prepare additional cooling facilities, and we close the quarantine for the long distance. So was there some positive feedback from the teams, and then we organize some longer quarantine after the finish. So that was some. I think this is the answer. Next, yes, some comments now. Jaska, can you read the comments or the question in the chat?
Yeah, Eric says that the long winning time was also a problem with the athletes because of the heat and impacts not only a TV window. So that's a valid comment also, that we need also think about the athletes' health and not only the TV window.
Yes, thank you for this comment. Yes, of course, we talk a lot about this, but this is really we must be really prepared for the future, but it is not easy. What we talked before. One IT issue, not one, but one point for the few issues with the IT. And one more important was so the primary timing system in the middle qualification was wrong. Just after we published the preliminary result, I have got the phone from one of the coach. So the result was wrong. They check the split timeout from GPS, so was wrong time. I check. I ask the IT staff so they can check this, and conclusion was so that was some delay with the transport, the connection from the finish line to the mine system. So we decided about use the backup system, and the result was republished. The information was sent to all teams about this situation, that we report on the team leader meeting about this, and we make the decision. So for the whole competition, we use only backup system from the sport island. This is a task for the investigation by the IT commission and for the, of course, the local IT company. What really happened, because that was not one small issue, but probably was some small mistake with this connection. But I haven't to this moment so more comments about this and on this investigation. Some fair place. During the long distance. Yes, long distance. We find so the few runners turn off the GPS tracker during the race. So we discuss about the team leader meeting, and we ask the team don't do this, because it is not only about the runners, about okay, they if they have some mistake or they don't want show on this on the online GPS trackers, but this is for the security. That was very important. So that was one issue with one runners from one nation. So then we saw that the GPS was stopped in the one place. That was about 1 kilometer from the arena, and the team coach come to us and ask if probably some happens, they can go to the forest walk. So we decide yes, and with the some organizer, and if the some happens, but they walk and find the runners was okay, they back walk to the arena. But this is very important. So this is the fair play issue, and we must repeat and probably on the team leader next competition. Some small organizer issue was power interruption during the relay 2 or 3 times. So that was really great arena manager with the very big experience. So was the double power supply was backup, but was some one point of failure with the connection, and that was interrupt the power supply just before the start, and then during the thunderstorm weather, but only for the 1 or the 2 minutes. But this is some comments. Yes, really key elements must be double, must be duplicate in the competition. That was not problems with this TV coverage because the TV staff use their own power supply equipment. Thank you. That's all. I wait for the comments if you have some question.
Yeah, thank you, Jerzy. We are running late on time, so probably time for one comment or question.
Okay.
Currently, I
No,
don't
thank
see
you.
any comments or questions here.
Thank you. Only that was very great competition in the Hungary. So thank you for the organizer.
Yeah, thank you, Jerzy, for your work and your contribution to this seminar. And then we will finally move on to VOC. This is the last competition, and it will be me who will be presenting it, but Jari Kymäläinen was my assistant, and also Finn Arjutsen was an assistant event advisor for IT. So I I collected quite a lot of things, but I still want to focus on just a few. So I will not go through all of these. But yeah, with the preparation, we were always quite late. This event was awarded already in 2018. It should have happened in 22, but then was because of COVID was postponed to 24. But the first major issue was that there were quite severe financial issues that were discovered during the summer of 2023. Like 25% of the budget was missing, and we were extremely close to getting this event cancelled last August. So after that, almost nothing happened for 3 months, and we were late. We had to push quite a lot in the last phases. So normally the goal is to have the courses ready 1 year before the event. Here we got new course planners for the sprint qualification, sprint final, and the knockout sprint qualification, like 5 months before the VOC. So then everything was really late. Let's see what I want to talk about still. Yeah, this extreme lateness was also with the bulletin 4. I received bulletin 4 like 18 hours before it went to print, and then I had comments like 6 pages of some bigger and some smaller issues of comments. They of course fixed most of these, but for example, we were missing arena plans from bulletin 4. That was not good. We also had problems with training. This was a problem from both stakeholders. So, for example, the teams were not happy that the terrain for the knockout sprint test race some 2 weeks before VOC was not opened for training afterwards. But the organizer says that this was always the plan. This was written down in Bulletin 3, but still the teams argued quite a lot about this, that they wanted to go to this area that was very similar to the knockout sprint qualification race, since it was a neighboring area. And then the organizers had a lot of problems with the teams not taking let's say their orders. They said that in some terrains it's not possible to do real sprint training, just to maintain the local connections to the people living there. And then this was also a very close call, that the permission for the individual sprint qualification race was in danger because of this. Okay, moving on. Actually, we had 3 races where not a lot has happened. So they were really good races: the sprint qualification, the sprint relay, and the knockout sprint qualification. So some interesting things about about the sprint qualification. In the quarantine entrance, we had a lot of issues with the SIAC numbers of the runners. Something like 50 of the SIAC numbers didn't correspond to what they had in Eventor. So there was a quite serious check. Why is it important? Because all the radio times, for example, what you see on the internet, and also when you have the TV coverage, the SIAC is how the runners are identified. If the SIAC numbers are not correct, then there will be issues. Like the TV will not be correct, not be showing correctly who is coming, whose time is stopping, and the other one is the split times will not be correct. So that's why it had to be checked. It was only an issue for the first competition. Then everything fell into place. We had this tram crossing that you can see on the screen. This was easily the biggest fairness issue we had before the race. Here trams were going in both directions like every 7 minutes, and they couldn't be stopped, the trams. So the solution was to design a leg like this, so they are not running through the tram line in a straight way, but they should be running perpendicular to the tram line. And then there was always time to for either the tram or the runner to pass. So this was not an issue. In the end, this was mitigated really well. We had some problems with the live timing, and this was I can say it was a pretty trivial issue with the Starlink internet connection. But then again, in these moments, everything seems to fail much easier than normal. For me, actually, the first competition is the most important, because then you don't have that much experience, and getting the first competition up and running is always the biggest challenge. And then we had no complaints for the sprint qualification, and overall very good courses on a terrain that has not been used, not been mapped before. Then moving onto the sprint final, which was an extremely hectic race to organize, and well, in hindsight, some of the areas shouldn't have been used for a walk race. This was beyond the risk that we should have taken in a walk race. It was extremely crowded. At the end, the organizers used 200 marshals out on the course, which is an insane amount. And then we had almost like one course. So the men's course and the women's course was quite similar. So 200 marshals for a 15-minute course is like one marshal every 5 seconds. This is crazy. But overall, this was a great course with extremely difficult route choices and a lot of mistakes. I heard a lot of comments from from event advisors and organizers saying that this course was too extreme, was too difficult. It was not possible to make the route choices. What you forget here is that the athletes are spending 1 year to to discuss these possibilities. So in most cases, the athletes, the teams, the coaches, they know the terrain much better than the organizer or an event advisor. So they have a very different starting perspective from how they are looking at the courses. And at the end, from the competitors, we received a lot of great feedback. And then we had all these small issues that come up in competitions when you are organizing in such a big city. For example, the start backdrop for the sprint final was visible from the bus on the way back from the qualification race. This was never intended. The route for the buses was changed because of some road closures. This was a late change. Then we had a protest going on for months where we had the start for the sprint final. It just cleared up a few days before the competition. We were extremely late with the terrain preparations, like 30 minutes before the start. I had at least 3 problematic areas where the preparations were not going like how they should have gone. But then during the competition, we had only had one issue with the crowd. We had one athlete disqualified, and then we had again one missing punch on the last control. So going on to some terrain issues. You may remember that we had, especially on the men's course, we had one map change and 2 map flips. And we had issues on several of these points. We had a map flip on control 4 for the men's course, and then there were several people who were mispunched on control 8, because from 7 to 8 they were taking this route choice, this eastern route choice, and they punched the control number 1. For some reason, they thought that it would be the same as control number 8, and number 8 was not in their SciEx. Also, we had at least one problem at the map exchange, which was at number 9. One of the athletes did start to run backwards for some reason, and then she lost considerable time on this. And then we had another quite big issue in the men's race, coming from 18 to 19. Some runners did run down this street. It's called the Mound. And we strongly believe that this was because they thought that there will be a gate open here and not here. It's once again an issue where you study the old maps too much. Then these 2 gates were never opened before, but this has been opened several times before. So 7 of these 8 competitors did come back and go the right way, but they lost a lot of time. But we had one runner who in the end didn't understand the situation and ran all the way up to this gate and came like this to control 19. But this we didn't see on the GPS because you have a lot of other things to look at during the competition. So the results were already official when we discovered this, like 1 hour after the prize giving ceremony. So this was of course then discussed with the referees, and then there was no change to the results. So this competitor was outside of the top 30 then.
Aaron,
And then
4 minutes
yes,
left.
okay. And then we had an interesting case here. I call it the Malin Agevik Christiansson case. So she's in a really good position coming into control number 9 and going to number 10. She's going this extreme south way to number 10. But then suddenly there is an IOF tape put down here, because one of the marshals thought that this area should have been more clear, and put an IOF tape here. It shouldn't have been an IOF tape. An IOF tape means that you are not going through it. And then when she got to this corner, this one is a quite high fence. It's possible to jump, but still it's quite high. Then she sees a marshal and asks, should I go back? And the marshal, since this is Scotland, the marshal answers that you can go back if you want. So she loses approximately 30 seconds here, and of course a lot of concentration, and she still ends up as number 5, 23 seconds of the bronze medal. Of course, the Danish team complained, and the referee's answer is that this is an unfortunate situation caused by wrong taping, but the referees rejected the complaint at the end. So just for you to see, this is the GPS. So this is the yellow one is Malin Agevik Christiansson. She's coming to this southern part. Then she stops, asks the marshal. Then she goes back, bit around, and loses quite a lot of time. So yeah, this was a really difficult situation, but because this was clearly an organizer mistake, and this was one of 3 mistakes that we did during this whole event. This only affected her, but of course it's you don't want these kind of mistakes as an organizer. So as I don't have a lot of time left, then I will skip the sprint relay. This was a really good competition. The competition with the least problems. We had a good area. So this was a really nice one, as well as the knockout sprint qualification. There were only some minor issues. But in the knockout sprint finals, we had some more issues. It was an unfortunate combination of not enough people in the right places during the day, and also some unfortunate things happening, and this was also the last day. But because of this, the team officials meeting was extremely long. We had to do some changes. The technical director, who was responsible for this, had to work with 3 permission issues when also getting ready for the team officials meetings presentations. We had there was a lot of secrecy here, so they didn't start putting out controls and tapes before the competitors went into quarantine. So this also meant that the terrain works were extremely late, and we even had to initiate the postponement of the finals by 4 minutes because of all these changes. So we had a total of 8 complaints and 7 complaints within 3 races from quarterfinal number 11 to semifinal number 1. And this was an immense pressure on the referees and the organization. We had some pushing issues. We had issues with the screen being visible for competitors, and then we had this print shop passage that I will come back to. So just to do this fast, these pushing issues, they were caused by different things on the course, like the uphill finish, tired runners, and so on. But a working group was set up, led by Graham Gristwood, who is looking into how to ensure fair play during these first to finish competition formats, and this should be ready for the sprint season. And then the other issues, they were caused by late changes inside the arena and around the arena. The second screen that the competitors were looking at the semi-final, this was brought into the arena without the start crew and the course teams knowing about it. The start team was not aware that they should look at this when bringing in the athletes. And then we had the road closure on the Royal Mile extremely late, which meant that the dominoes started to fall. We didn't have enough time to check the course. And this led to this print shop issue, which was which looked like an organizational problem. I will come back to this. But in the first women's semi-final between controls 5 and 6, the field chose to run through this sprint shop, which was specifically opened for this race, and they hesitated a lot. And the teams affected claimed that this was unfair because they are not trained to run through buildings unless they are informed, which is a bit controversial because they had quite similar situations in the sprint final also, and they were not shown the exact pictures of what they have to run through in the sprint final. So there was one competitor who lost places on this, and this led to a complaint. And I would like to show you exactly the TV pictures from here. So they are running into this sprint shop.
Olsen in the next one, and now
The
this
blue
is
one.
incredibly interesting because they've got to go through
Oh,
the
they
shop.
can't believe they have no idea what to do here. Toby Alexanderson did not see that shop was open. The marshal, I think, basically tried to wave her into it, but they just can't believe that they've opened up a shop front that has caused havoc, and the group is all...
Okay, so this is what happened. So you see the pictures here, how it looked for the first semi-final, and then we of course improved the situation. But as you see, that advertising board is 90% angled now for the second semi-final, which is on the picture below, and there are 2 more people standing there. They are not even marshals. On the top picture, you can also see that the marshal is actually pointing towards the entrance. But so when we saw this, we thought that this must have been an organizational mistake, and in a way it was, because it was not intended to be like this. But there was not enough time to check this issue. Unfortunately, also before the team officials meeting, this was forgotten to be mentioned, and also before the race. This was always planned to go okay, and should be an obvious entrance, but it didn't happen in the end. I then looked at the TV footage, and now I think that this was a borderline situation in the first semi-final. It was not optimal, but but it was a borderline situation. I think the athletes in this semi-final number one, which we saw, didn't really look at their maps. They were only following Tove and didn't pay attention to their map. And if you remember the final, there were similar issues in the women's final when they were blindly following other runners. So yes, this was an unfortunate situation, but in the end we survived this day. We got results, and this is how the walk in Scotland ended. And probably we have questions for one or two questions or comments we have time for. Am I still online?
Yes, you are. I'm just waiting,
Yes.
but there seem to be no comments or questions about your presentation.
Okay. Then thank you again for all the SCAs to put together this presentation and also for your attention. Now we will break not for 20 minutes, but we will restart at 10:55. 10:55. We will restart with